What's up, you draft nerds out there? My name is Draft Raw, and thank you for tuning in to In the Clutch. Like I said, welcome to In the Clutch. I'm your host, Draft Raw, and in this video, we're going to talk about the top linebacker prospects in the 2021 draft. So without further ado, let's just start with the consensus top guy around the board, and that is Micah Parsons, linebacker from Penn State. Now, when it comes to Parsons, he didn't play this past season. When you are a guy that is the consensus top guy and your stock is really, really high, and then the COVID situation happened and players being able to opt out, this was probably the right decision for him. And the reason why this was the right decision was because his stock wasn't going to be any higher than what it was now. At a certain point, Micah was looked at as a top 5 pick. Now it's kind of more of top 20, but it's still first round, because I think that a lot of media scouts have really dig deep into the tape. And as I dove a little bit deeper into this tape, I saw some things that wasn't particularly likable when it came to him and being considered one of the top defensive prospects within this draft. So if I look at my notes, this is what I got from watching this tape. He attacks the line of scrimmage. One of the best guys in attacking the line of scrimmage. That's pretty much where he makes most of his plays. He doesn't take on blocks, and he rather goes around the offensive lineman instead of stacking and shedding. What's the problem with that? The biggest problem is that it doesn't show physicality. For linebackers, physicality is probably the top thing that you need to have. It's a top priority, like, tackling, cover skills, speed, athleticism, taking on blocks, physicality. The reason why that's not the greatest thing is because when you get to the NFL, the offensive linemen are a little bit faster. So when you're used to going around blocks in college, they're a little bit slower. In the NFL, you try to do that and you're just going to get washed. You're going to get pushed out of the way. And you're not going to make the play. And you're not going to make the plays that you were used to making in college, what made you one of the best defensive players. He loses the ball a lot. That's another negative about him that I didn't like. Anytime, the quarterback will give it to the ball carrier, whether it was a receiver or a running back, a lot of times he seemed to kind of not know where the ball was. His biggest thing with attacking the line of scrimmage, he would just shoot the gap. He would just shoot straight into the offensive line, trying to get around blockers and try to make a play, and then he loses the ball. He doesn't know what the ball is. He's shooting to the right, and the ball's to the left. That's something he needs to work on. And he needed to actually play this year because of that, because if he showed the ability to be able to diagnose and take on blocks and make the play, then there wouldn't be this chatter about him. And then on top of that, I don't want to talk about this, but there's been the rumor of some character concerns. So he may actually drop a little further in the draft than what people may think. But all in all, he's a great rusher when he's blitzing, which of course is part of attacking the line of scrimmage. And he's super fast, super athletic. He has all the traits that you want in a linebacker: 6'4", 245, 250 pounds, runs in the 4.4, has some of the fastest times when it comes to the shuttle and the 3-cone and, all of these different numbers that kind of measure athleticism. But it's not just about being athletic and being fast and quick. It's also about using technique and being able to, like I said, for a linebacker, be physical, and that's something that he won't be. And not to say he won't be, but it's something that I'm a little bit eerie about him when it comes to that. He may bust when he comes into the NFL. He may not be as good. But he does have, like we said, the athleticism and the physical traits to being one of the better linebackers within this draft class. With the second guy we're going to talk on the list, it's Zaven Collins. Zaven Collins is a player that also, like Micah Parsons, has the athleticism. He can drop back in coverage well, something that I actually didn't see Micah Parsons do a lot as well. He didn't drop back in coverage. When he attacks the line of scrimmage, though, the negative about him is that he doesn't shed neither. And it's not even just not shedding, like he takes on the block, so he is physical, but he doesn't shed as well. And being able to shed the block and then get to the running back or the quarterback is kind of one of the main things you need to do as a blitzing linebacker or just defensive player in general when you're trying to stop the run play or stop the quarterback from throwing the ball. Zaven Collins is still one of the more athletic guys. He didn't play at the grandest of schools. He played at Tulsa, so it's not against the best competition, but he showed that he was probably the best player on the field every single game. No matter what, he was pretty much usually the best player. He has a lot of things that you can really, really like about him, and then he has some things that you don't like about him. But one thing I can say is that I kind of like him a little bit more than Micah Parsons. I think that because he actually shows a willingness to take on blocks, and he does show the ability to drop in coverage, and he still is a good tackler, and he still has the athleticism, all the physical traits that you want. He's a guy that a defensive coordinator getting his hands on him and can carve out a role for him in the NFL, he can be one of the better linebackers, or I consider a jack of all trade type of linebackers, and become a star within the NFL. Next, we're going to talk about Grant Stewart from Houston. Grant Stewart is a high energy linebacker. He also attacks the line of scrimmage. He's a great tackler. He sheds blocks. His cover skills need improvement, but he still is very quick. Now, he's not the most athletic guy. He's not the fastest player, but he has a lot of other great traits that can make him to a really, really good linebacker within the NFL. Like I said, being able to take on blocks and shed, being able to be a really, really good tackler, and just having that high energy. He won't be a third down type of linebacker. The third down linebackers, if you're not really sure, is the guys that, when it's 3rd and 10, the linebacker that you're okay with putting out there to cover a receiver or a tight end to make sure that the offense doesn't move the ball. But on 1st and 2nd down, where you're going to get more runs in those type of downs than the 3rd down, he's the guy that you want because he's going to bring a certain type of energy that's going to enlighten everybody on the defense and bring just this motor and this energy that's just unmatched by pretty much a lot of these linebackers. It gets defensive players motivated, and it also gets the whole team fired up. Even whoever is on his team on the offensive side of the ball can get fired up from the way that this guy plays. Next, we're going to talk about another guy that at first I wasn't really sure if I liked too much. And then as I kept watching the tape, I was a little bit kind of like, there's a skill set that he has that could work within the NFL. And that's Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, linebacker from Notre Dame, a.k.a. we can just call him JOK. With JOK, he's a super fast player. He plays a hybrid of a linebacker, a safety, and a nickel corner. It's kind of weird because you don't see that a lot. The only person that's kind of close to actually doing that was guys like Derwin James that got drafted by the Chargers, or Isaiah Simmons, who recently got drafted by the Cardinals. Both of those players are kind of the hybrid role of nickel corner and safety and linebacker. Well, here's another guy that is like that, but he is literally a linebacker. He was not playing the safety role, and he's not playing a nickel cover role. He's actually playing linebacker, and they're putting him out there to actually cover the fast and quick wide receivers. He actually has the ability to do it. He will lose the ball at some times. When it comes to the run plays, with him being so fast, sometimes he kind of goes faster than what he could actually see. But there's effort there. And his athleticism is freaking off the charts. With the way that he plays the position, it's kind of weird because he will not be your traditional linebacker, but he will be a guy that you're able to use as a chess piece within your defensive system that any defensive coordinator would love to get their hands on. Next, we're going to talk about North Carolina linebacker Chaz Stewart. Chaz Surratt. I'm sorry, I keep messing up his name because his name is a little weird. Chaz Surratt. Athletic, moves smooth and great in coverage. With his size, he could cover a tight end or a slot in man-to-man coverage. But the thing is, he just needs to add a little bit more weight, a little bit more bulk. He's only a 220-pound linebacker, so he's a little bit small. He's a guy that you don't see taking on blocks a lot. He doesn't, he's going to try to run around the block. He's going to try to use his athleticism and speed to get to the ball carrier. So he's not going to really shoot gaps and stuff like that. But he's going to use his athleticism and his smooth hips and his quick feet to be able to make plays on the football. And obviously, because the NFL is becoming a passing league, this is something that is very, very, very detrimental for most defenses, is to have a linebacker like him. Next, we're going to talk about is Jamin Davis, linebacker from Kentucky. Jamin is an aggressive linebacker, really solid tackler, and he's willing to take on blocks. A lot of things that he does, a lot of teams are starting to get used to and starting to notice about him, and he's really climbing up draft boards right now. If you're a draft nerd just like me, then you've heard this name a lot come up. At his recent pro day, he's literally been one of the best guys that has been, in the draft, using the athleticism, using the speed, and using the quickness. This guy has a certain skill set that is literally just off the charts. And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if he is at least the first or second linebacker off the board, just because of what's going on with a guy like Micah Parsons. Next, we're going to talk about Dylan Moses. Now, with Dylan Moses, linebacker from Alabama, I did not like his tape. He made no impact. I didn't think he did nothing in any game that he played in. Didn't matter if I watched his 2019 tape or if I watched his 2020 tape. He did absolutely nothing. Only reason I'm actually talking about him is because he's a linebacker from Alabama, to be honest with you. I can honestly see him going undrafted. It's just not a lot of great things to say about him. So I'm just going to move on. Anyway, with the next guy we're going to talk about is the linebacker from LSU, and that's Jabrill Cox. Jabrill is a speedy guy with lots of tools. One of the best coverage linebackers, if not the best coverage linebacker in college. He needs to learn how to play the run, i.e. be a better tackler and taking on blocks like most linebackers have to do or have to become. His ability and his skill set is literally just as a cover guy. So with a lot of these guys here, there's certain things that he can do, but he's one of the few linebackers that wasn't good at being physical at all. Like, he just wasn't doing it. Chaz Surratt showed a little bit physicality in terms of tackle. He was a solid tackler. And a lot of other guys showed the ability to at least stop the run. He has no ability to stop the run. He is just a strictly coverage linebacker. So basically, when he gets into the league, it's going to be more of a role within like the first 2 or 3 years where he's just going to kind of be a coverage guy. He's probably not going to be the guy that you're going to put out on first and second down. Definitely a guy that you're going to put out on third down or passing downs where you need him to cover the slot receiver or the tight end. But in all, he has a certain type of skill set, a certain type of athleticism that most teams are going to covet and think that they could really make a good player out of a guy like Jabrill Cox. Next guy we're going to talk on our list is Cameron McGrone, linebacker from Michigan. Athletic traits, but that's pretty much it. He is willing to take on blocks, and he does blitz. He does show physicality, but it's more with him, it's just athleticism than it is actually technique. So there's something to work there with. This is a guy that I actually will give like a second or third round grade. A team may look at him and say, hey, he's got everything that you need. He just needs to learn how to play the position better. And once he does that, he's going to be one of those guys that is going to really skyrocket within the NFL. And last but not least, we're going to talk about Tony Fields. Tony Fields is a player that I believe played at Arizona, and then this past season he played at West Virginia. He attacks the line of scrimmage with aggressiveness and speed. He's willing to take on blocks, even at his size of being 6 foot and 220 pounds. He can blitz off the edge. He can shed. He needs to improve his coverage ability because he doesn't have the greatest of speeds. The thing that I saw from him is that he wasn't a sideline defender. He didn't have that athleticism and speed that you would see in a lot of these other linebackers that are named. But opposite of Cameron McGrone, he showed technique. He showed some ability to be able to take on blocks, the ability to be able to rush off the edge, the ability to be able to attack the line of scrimmage and actually seem like he knew what he was doing. It was one of the better tapes that I watched. The only problem is you're not sure if he's going to be able to hold up in the NFL because even at his size, he's really not that fast. And the game is faster than what his speed could really bring. But if he could get more instinctual and smarter and be able to diagnose, he could really carve out a role for himself within the NFL. Maybe not an elite role, but somewhere where he could be a solid linebacker for years to come. Anyway, that was the last player on my list for the top linebackers of the 2021 draft. Wait to the end of the video where I tell you where you can follow me and where you can see more of me. Once again, I'm Draft Raw. Peace. Thank you once again for tuning in to In the Clutch. Once again, my name is Draft Raw, and if you want to see more videos from me, then you can subscribe to my YouTube channel at Draft Raw. And if you want to hear more from me, then you can follow me on Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram at the same name, Draft Raw. Once again, thank you. I'll see you next time.